The transport shuttle rattled as it approached Primus 7 station. Hana sat in the back row, her hands gripping the worn armrest. Through the small window, she could see the massive structure floating in space, the Galactic Naval Academy, the most famous military school in known space. She had dreamed of this moment for years. Back on Earth, in the crowded shelter where she grew up, she would look at the stars and imagine herself among them. Now that dream was real, but her stomach twisted with nervousness. The shuttle carried 20 new cadets. Most were tall and confident, talking loudly about their home worlds. Hana recognized the accents. New Terra, New Sol, New Jeju. All the rich colony planets where humans had built paradise cities under gentle suns. She stayed quiet in her seat. Her clothes were clean but old, patched in several places. Her bag contained everything she owned. It wasn't much. A tall young man with perfectly styled hair looked back at her and wrinkled his nose. "Did they seriously let someone from a scrap shuttle on board?" he said to his friend. His friend laughed. "Standards are dropping, Taejin. Next, they'll accept anyone." Hana kept her eyes down. She had heard worse on Earth. Words couldn't hurt her. The shuttle docked with a metallic clang. The cadets stood up, grabbing their expensive bags and cases. Hana waited until everyone else filed out before she followed with her single-worn backpack. The docking bay was enormous. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species filled the space. There were tall, thin aliens with blue skin, short, furry creatures with 6 legs, massive beings that looked like walking rocks. And among them, humans from every colony world humanity had settled. But Hana could tell immediately that she was different. The other humans moved with an easy grace, their bodies adapted to lighter gravity over generations. They were taller, more elegant, their features refined by life on gentle worlds. She felt short and thick by comparison, heavy, clumsy. The line of cadets moved toward the security gate. One by one, each person placed their hand on a scanner. It would read their biology, confirm their identity, and register them into the academy system. Hana watched as a cadet from New Terra scanned in. The display flashed green. Origin, New Terra. Gravity, 0.7 G. Welcome to the academy. Another cadet. Green flash. Origin, New Sol Station. Gravity, 0.6 G. Welcome to the academy. The process was smooth and quick. Nobody paid much attention. Then Hana reached the front of the line. She placed her hand on the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the machine made a sound she hadn't heard before. A sharp, loud beep. The display flashed red. Red letters appeared on the screen, large and bright. Origin, Earth. Gravity World Classification, Death World. The busy docking bay fell silent. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Hana felt hundreds of eyes on her. Her face grew hot. "Earth?" someone whispered. "I didn't think anyone still lived there," another voice said. Taejin, the cadet from her shuttle, stepped closer with a cruel smile. A dirt worlder. "Seriously? The Academy is accepting dirt worlders now?" His friend Minho joined him. "Earth is a wasteland. Why would anyone stay on that ruined planet?" More cadets gathered around. Even some of the aliens looked curious, though most seemed confused about why a human's origin would matter. "What does Death World mean?" asked a furry alien cadet. A human from New Jeju answered loudly, making sure Hana could hear. "It means the planet is extremely dangerous. High gravity, extreme weather, radiation, disease. Only the most primitive humans still live there because they're too poor or stupid to leave." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Hana wanted to disappear. She wanted to run back to the shuttle and return to Earth, but she had come too far. This opportunity had cost everything her family had saved for 10 years. She lifted her chin and walked through the gate. Behind her, the mockery continued. "She won't last a week, gravity rat. Probably doesn't even know how to use a toilet that doesn't involve a hole in the ground." A female cadet named Jiwoo, beautiful and confident, leaned toward her friends. "I almost feel sorry for her. Coming from Earth to compete with us, she's going to fail every single test." Hana found her assigned quarters in the cadet dormitory. The room was small but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a locker. After the crowded shelter on Earth where she had shared a room with 8 others, this felt like luxury. She sat on the bed and let out a long breath. Through the window she could see stars. Real stars not filtered through Earth's polluted atmosphere. A message appeared on the room's display screen. All new cadets report to Assembly Hall Alpha in 1 hour. Uniform required. Hana opened her bag and pulled out her cadet uniform. It was standard issue. Sent to her 3 months ago, she had tried it on 100 times back home, proud of how it looked. But now she noticed how different it seemed compared to the other cadets' uniforms. Theirs looked crisp and new, perfectly fitted. Hers was slightly too large, and despite her careful packing, it had wrinkles. She put it on anyway and looked at herself in the mirror. A short, stocky girl with rough hands and a plain face stared back. She didn't look like a hero. She didn't look like someone who belonged at the Galactic Naval Academy. But she was here. She thought about her mother back on Earth, working 16-hour shifts in the water reclamation plant. Her younger brother studying by candlelight when the power grid failed. Her grandmother, who had survived the Third Water War and always told her, "We are strong because we had to be." Hana straightened her uniform and headed for the door. In the corridor, other cadets moved in groups, already forming friendships. They glanced at her and whispered. Some pointed. Most ignored her completely. She walked alone toward Assembly Hall Alpha, her footsteps echoing in the metal hallway. Above her head, a display screen showed the Academy motto in a dozen languages: Excellence through Unity. Hana wondered if that unity would ever include someone like her. A group of cadets passed by, and she heard Tajin's voice clearly. "Command better not put the Earth Girl in my squad. I don't want dead weight holding us back," his friends agreed loudly. Hana kept walking. She had expected this. On Earth, everyone knew that the colony worlds looked down on those who stayed behind. The forgotten humans. The ones who couldn't afford to leave or chose to remain on humanity's harsh birthplace. But they didn't understand Earth. They didn't know what it took to survive where every day was a battle. Where you learned to endure because there was no other choice. The assembly hall doors opened before her, massive and intimidating. Inside, thousands of cadets were gathering for the opening ceremony. Hana stepped through the doors. Whatever came next, she would face it. She hadn't come this far to give up because of mockery and whispers. She was born on Earth, and that meant something, even if nobody else knew it yet. The assembly hall was enormous, large enough to hold 5,000 beings. Hana found a seat near the back, away from the clusters of laughing, confident cadets. The seats were designed to adjust for different alien species, and hers molded slightly to fit her frame. On the stage at the front, several officers stood in perfect formation. Their uniforms bore the marks of high rank in many battles. In the center stood Commandant Veltar, a Kryn with 4 powerful arms and deep purple skin. He was a legend, having trained cadets for 40 years. Veltar's voice boomed through the hall without need for amplification. "Cadets, you are here because you represent the best of your worlds. Only 1 in 1,000 applicants earns a place at this academy. You should be proud." Hana felt a small spark of pride. She had passed the entrance exams despite having access to only basic study materials. While colony cadets attended expensive prep schools, she had learned from old digital files and borrowed books. However, Velthar continued, his 4 eyes scanning the crowd, 90% of you will fail. The academy does not graduate the best test takers. We graduate warriors, leaders, beings who can face the impossible and survive. A nervous energy filled the hall. Tomorrow your testing begins. Physical assessments, mental evaluations, combat simulations. We will find your limits and then we will push you beyond them. Some of you will quit. Some will break. Only the strongest will remain. Velthar's gaze seemed to sweep past Hana, then return. For a brief moment, their eyes met. His expression showed nothing, but Hana felt evaluated and found wanting. The ceremony ended. Cadets filed out, talking excitedly about the next day. Hana heard Tajin's group making bets about who would fail first. "The Earth Girl won't make it past week 1, Minho said confidently. "That's generous," Jiwoo replied. "I give her 3 days." Hana returned to her quarters. She lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. Self-doubt crept in like shadows. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was foolish to think she could compete with cadets who had every advantage. But then she remembered the scanner's words. Death world. Earth was classified as a death world. She had survived 18 years there. That had to count for something. The next morning arrived too quickly. Hana joined the flood of cadets heading to the training facility. The room was massive, filled with equipment for testing every aspect of physical ability. An instructor named Assam, a human woman from New Seoul Station, called out assignments. Squad 7, you're on the sprint course. Squad 12, weight training. Squad 5, obstacle course. Hana found herself assigned to Squad 3 with 19 other cadets. 8 were human, the rest various alien species. Taijin was in her squad. He groaned when he saw her. Perfect. Now our squad scores will be lowest because of the Dirt Worlder. The first test was a simple sprint, 1 kilometer as fast as possible. The Academy's standard gravity was set to 0.7 g, a compromise for the many species that trained there. For Hana, 0.7 g felt incredibly light. On Earth, she had lived her entire life at 1.0 g. Here she felt like she could float, but she didn't know how to use this advantage. Her body was built for heavier gravity. Her muscles, her bones, everything was denser and stronger than needed for this environment. The starting signal sounded. The other cadets took off like birds. Taijin's long legs ate up distance with elegant strides. Jiwoo ran with perfect form, barely seeming to touch the ground. Even the alien cadets moved with practiced ease in the reduced gravity. Hana ran hard, but her style was different, heavy, powerful. Each step hit the ground with force while others seemed to glide. She finished in the middle of the pack. Not terrible, but not impressive either. Taijin crossed the finish line and immediately looked back at her time on the display. 15th place out of 20, told you. Dead weight. The next test was the obstacle course. Climbing walls, rope swings, balance beams, all designed to test agility and coordination. Again, Hana struggled. The other human cadets moved through the course with grace. They had grown up in lighter gravity, so their bodies knew how to move efficiently in these conditions. Hana kept misjudging distances. She would jump, expecting to fall faster, but the lighter gravity made her overshoot. She would grab ropes too hard, using strength that wasn't necessary. She finished 19th out of 20. Only a small alien cadet with an injured leg scored lower. In the rest area, the other cadets whispered. Some looked at her with pity, most with contempt. Why is she even here? Someone asked. Jiwoo shook her head. It's cruel, really. Someone should have told her she wasn't cut out for this before she wasted her credits on the journey here. Instructor Dasum watched Hana carefully. Something about the Earth Girl's movements caught her attention. Dasum had trained thousands of cadets, and she knew failure when she saw it. But this wasn't failure. This was something else. The girl wasn't weak. She was adapting. Every attempt was slightly better than the last. She was learning an entirely new way to move in real time. The final test of the day was different. Endurance. A 40-kilometer march in full combat gear. The gear weighed 20 kilograms. For most cadets, this was heavy but manageable. For the alien species with different physiology, the weight was adjusted proportionally. Commandant Velthar himself oversaw this test. This is not a race, he announced. Speed means nothing. Completion means everything. Some of you will not finish. That is acceptable. Quitting is not. The march began. For the first 5 kilometers, everyone moved easily. Cadets talked and joked, their breathing steady. Taijin and his friends led a group singing an old military song from New Terra. At 10 kilometers, the talking decreased. Some cadets began to show signs of strain. At 15 kilometers, the first cadet dropped out. A thin human from New Jeju collapsed, unable to continue. Medical staff collected him. At 20 kilometers, the leaders were pulling far ahead. But Hana noticed something. They weren't pulling as far ahead as they had been. The gap was closing, not because she was speeding up. She had maintained exactly the same pace from the beginning, steady, unchanging, like a machine. But the others were slowing down. At 25 kilometers, Taijin's perfect posture began to slouch. Minho's breathing became labored and loud. Jiwoo, who had seemed tireless, now struggled with every step. Hana simply walked, 1 foot in front of the other. This was nothing compared to the long walks on Earth, where she had helped carry water containers 20 kilometers from the working wells to her shelter, where gravity pulled harder and thin air made every breath a challenge. At 30 kilometers, half the cadets had dropped out or fallen far behind. At 35 kilometers, something remarkable happened. Hana began passing people. She passed struggling alien cadets who were built for short bursts of speed but not endurance. She passed the humans from New Terra whose bodies had adapted to comfort. She passed Jiwoo, whose eyes widened in disbelief. Hana's face showed no triumph, no smile, just focus. Just the simple act of continuing. At 38 kilometers, only 15 cadets remained in the lead group. Hana was one of them. Taejin looked back and saw her. His expression showed confusion, then anger, then something like fear. How was the Earth girl still moving? She should have been the first to collapse. The finish line appeared in the distance. Hana maintained her pace. Her legs ached and her shoulders burned from the weight of the gear, but pain was an old friend. On Earth, pain was just part of living. She crossed the finish line in 7th place out of 500 cadets. The observation deck fell silent. Velthar stood with his arms crossed, staring at his datapad. The numbers didn't make sense. The Earth girl had scored average or below average on every test. Then this. He pulled up her biological file. Origin, Earth, Gravity, 1.0 G. His eyes widened slightly. Of course. Instructor Daesam approached him. Commandant, did you see? I saw, Velthar interrupted. The Earth cadet. Should we adjust her training protocol? Velthar watched as Hana bent over, hands on her knees, breathing hard but recovering quickly. Around her, other cadets lay on the ground, completely exhausted. Some were crying. Some had vomited from the exertion. The Earth girl just stood up straight after a minute and began helping other cadets to their feet. No adjustment, Velthar said slowly. Not yet. I want to see what else she can do. That evening, in the cadet mess hall, the atmosphere was different. The mockery had decreased, replaced by confused whispers. Hana sat alone, eating her meal quietly. Across the room, Taijin stared at her with narrowed eyes. He had finished 4th in the endurance march, one of his worst performances ever. The Earth girl had beaten him. It had to be a fluke. Tomorrow's tests would prove that. The hazing began 3 days after the endurance test. Hana woke in the middle of the night, floating in the air. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she realized her bunk's gravity generator had been sabotaged. In the zero-gravity sleeping quarters, her magnetic sheets had been deactivated too. She tumbled helplessly, unable to find purchase on anything. Her stomach churned as she spun. On Earth, gravity was constant, reliable. This weightlessness was terrifying. Other cadets in nearby bunks pretended to sleep, but Hana heard quiet laughter. After 20 minutes of struggling, she finally managed to grab a handhold and pull herself to the control panel. She reactivated the gravity and fell hard onto her bunk. The next morning, she found her uniform missing from her locker. Someone had taken it and hidden it somewhere. She was late to formation, wearing her backup uniform that didn't fit properly. Instructor Daesam marked her down for poor appearance. In the combat simulator room, Hana's training scenarios were mysteriously set to maximum difficulty. While other cadets fought basic practice opponents, she faced advanced enemy soldiers who moved with lethal precision. She failed repeatedly, her scores plummeting. Taijin and Minho watched from the observation area, not even trying to hide their grins. Having trouble, Dirt Worlder? Taijin called out. Maybe you should go back to Earth where things are simpler. Hana said nothing. She reset the simulator and tried again. Failed again. Reset. Failed. Reset. Failed. But she never quit. Instructor Daesam watched from her office, reviewing the simulator logs. Someone had tampered with the settings. She could see exactly who had accessed Hana's training profile. Taijin, Minho, 3 others. Daesam considered intervening. The academy had strict rules against hazing. But then she paused. Something about how Hana responded to failure interested her. The girl didn't complain. Didn't ask for help. She just kept trying. Most cadets would have reported the harassment immediately. The Earth girl simply endured. The zero-gravity combat training was worse. This was a required skill for all space military operations. Cadets learned to fight and move in weightless environments. For those born on space stations or light gravity worlds, this came naturally. Their inner ears had developed in varied gravity conditions. They moved through zero-G like fish through water. Hana moved like a drowning person. Every movement sent her spinning. When she tried to grab an opponent, she pushed herself backward. When she threw a punch, she tumbled. The other cadets danced around her effortlessly while she flailed helplessly. This is painful to watch, Jiwoo said to her friend Hyerin. Both were excellent zero-G fighters, having grown up on New Seoul Station where children played in low-gravity parks. Why doesn't she just quit? Hiron replied. She's clearly not meant for this. In the center of the training sphere, Hana managed to grab onto a handhold. She steadied herself, breathing hard. Her instructor, a three-armed alien named Corthan, floated nearby. Cadet Hana, Corthan said, not unkindly. You are struggling because your evolutionary biology is working against you. Humans from Earth developed in constant gravity. Your inner ear, your spatial awareness, everything expects gravity to exist. Perhaps you should consider a ground-based military career instead. It was meant as helpful advice. But around the training sphere, cadets snickered. A ground-based career was code for failure. This was the Galactic Naval Academy. Space combat was everything. Hana pulled herself upright using the handhold. Permission to continue training, sir. Corthan's expression showed something like respect. Granted. But understand, cadet, this may be a limitation you cannot overcome. That night, Hana remained in the zero-G training sphere long after others left. She was alone, floating in the vast empty space, trying to teach her Earthborn body to function without the gravity it expected. She failed constantly, spun helplessly, grew nauseous and dizzy. But slowly, very slowly, patterns began to emerge. She learned that small movements were better than large ones, that she needed to think 3 moves ahead, that her Earth-built strength, useless in most zero-G situations, could help if she used handholds and leverage. It was brutally hard. But hard was something she understood. Meanwhile, in the cadet recreation area, Tajan held court with his friends. The Earth girl is finished, he announced confidently. Did you see her in zero-G training? Completely helpless. She'll wash out by end of term. It's actually sad, Jiwoo added. She tries so hard, but trying doesn't matter if you don't have the basic capabilities. Minho laughed. I heard she spent 3 extra hours in the training sphere tonight. 3 hours of failure. That's dedication to losing. Only Hyeron looked uncomfortable. She did beat most of us in the endurance march, she pointed out quietly. Tajan waved dismissively. A fluke. Endurance is one test. This academy requires excellence in everything. The dirt worlder might have strong legs, but she needs a strong mind and strong skills. Earth people are survivors, not warriors. The next day brought the practical combat assessment, real hand-to-hand fighting against other cadets. Not in 0G, but in standard 0.7G environment. Hana was paired against a tall alien cadet named Threx, who had 4 arms and natural armor plating. She barely reached his chest. The match began. Threx moved with speed and confidence. He had trained at the best military schools on his home world. His people were natural fighters. Hana dodged his first strike. Then his second. She didn't attack, just moved, observing. Threx grew frustrated and pressed harder, throwing combinations of punches. Then Hana did something unexpected. She moved inside his reach, too close for his long arms to be effective. Before Threx could adjust, she struck his center of mass with tremendous force. On Earth at 1.0 G, Hana had trained by carrying heavy loads and working physical labor since childhood. Her muscles were dense, her bones thick. When she hit something with full force, even in lighter gravity, that force was devastating. Threx stumbled backward, genuinely hurt. His eyes showed surprise. Hana didn't press the advantage. She simply returned to ready position, waiting. The match continued. Threx was more cautious now. He realized this small human hit much harder than her size suggested. They exchanged blows. Threx was faster, but Hana was tougher. Hits that should have staggered her barely slowed her down. The match ended in a draw. Threx showed respect, bowing to her in his species' traditional way. You are stronger than you look, Earth human. Hana bowed back. Thank you. Instructor Daesam made notes on her datapad. The Earth girl's performance was inconsistent but interesting. Terrible at 0G, average at agility, excellent at endurance, and now, showing surprising combat capability. It was a strange profile. Most cadets showed steady improvement across all areas. Hana showed extreme variance. She excelled at anything involving sustained effort and toughness, but struggled with skills requiring adaptation to space environment. That evening, Daesam pulled Hana's full file. She read it carefully. Born on Earth. Grew up in Sector 7, one of the poorest regions. Father died in a mining accident. Mother worked in water reclamation. Scored in the 98th percentile on entrance exams despite having minimal educational resources. There was a note in the medical section. Daesom opened it. Her eyes widened. The note was from the Academy's chief medical officer. It read, Cadet Hana represents baseline human genetics. Unmodified genome. Medical staff should be aware that her physiological responses may differ significantly from colonial-born humans. Her bone density is 40% higher than average. Muscle tissue shows increased mitochondrial density. Cardiovascular system is significantly more robust. These are not mutations but represent original Earth-adapted human biology. Daesom sat back in her chair. She had never considered how much humans had changed since leaving Earth. Colonial worlds had lighter gravity, cleaner air, controlled environments. Over 10 generations, human bodies had adapted. They had become optimized for paradise. But Earth was not paradise. Earth was a harsh world that demanded strength just to survive. And Earth humans had retained that strength. Daesom thought about the hazing Hana endured. The sabotaged equipment, the impossible scenarios. Most cadets would have reported it or quit by now, but Hana just kept going. Because on Earth there was no one to report problems to. You either solved them yourself or you didn't survive. Daesom made a decision. She couldn't stop the hazing without proof. And proving it would require investigation that might take weeks. But she could do something else. She could watch more carefully. And she could make sure that when the time came for Hana to prove herself, she would have the opportunity. Because Daesom had a suspicion. The Earth girl wasn't failing. She was adapting. And humans from Earth, as Daesom was beginning to understand, were very good at adapting to hostile environments. After all, they had survived on a death world. The atmospheric drop training was scheduled for week 6. It was one of the most dangerous exercises at the Academy. Cadets would board drop pods, launch from orbit, and land on Titan III, a training moon with a breathable atmosphere. Most cadets were excited. This was real military operation, the kind of thing they had dreamed about. The drop itself was considered safe. The Academy had performed thousands of successful drops. Hana felt nervous but determined. Her zero-G skills had improved slightly, though she still ranked near the bottom of her class. Her other scores remained mixed, but she hadn't quit, and that counted for something. The morning of the drop, Commandant Velthar addressed the cadets. Today you will experience real military deployment. The drop pods are automated. Simply strap in and trust the systems. You will land in designated zones and then perform a standard patrol exercise. 300 cadets loaded into their assigned pods. Hana climbed into Pod 47, a small capsule barely large enough for one person. She secured the 5-point harness and checked her gear. In Pod 45, Jiwoo was doing the same. The talented engineer had been assigned to the same drop group. In Pod 46, a quiet alien cadet named Revek prepared nervously. The launch bay doors opened to reveal the moon below. Titan III looked beautiful from orbit, covered in blue-green vegetation and white clouds. All pods prepare for launch, the control tower announced. One by one, pods launched from the bay. Hana felt her stomach drop as her pod accelerated away from the station. The small window showed space, then atmosphere, then clouds rushing past. The ride was rough but controlled. Her pod shook violently as it hit thicker air. Warning lights flashed, but they were expected. This was a combat drop. It was supposed to be intense. Then something went wrong. Pod 46, carrying Revek, experienced a thruster malfunction. It veered off course, spinning wildly. Its automated systems tried to compensate but failed. The pod collided with Pod 45. Jiwoo's pod was knocked sideways. Its heat shield cracked. Both pods, now damaged and out of control, plummeted toward the moon's surface. In Pod 47, Hana watched in horror through her small window. She saw the two pods spiraling downward, away from the designated landing zone. They were heading toward the moon's northern region. The high-gravity region, Titan III, had unusual geology. Most of the moon had 0.8 G gravity, similar to colony worlds, but the northern region, due to dense mineral deposits, had 1.4 G gravity. It was used only for specialized training with experienced soldiers. Emergency. Emergency. The control tower's voice crackled through the comm system. Pods 45 and 46 are down. Crash landing in Zone 7 North. All pods return to station. Repeat. All pods abort and return to station. Hana's pod automatically reverse thrust and began climbing back to orbit. Through the window, she could see other pods doing the same. But far below, in the northern region, she saw smoke rising. The crashed pods back on the station, chaos erupted. Commandant Velthar mobilized rescue teams immediately. Medical staff prepared. Heavy lift shuttles powered up. The cadets are alive, a technician reported, reading the pod's telemetry. Life signs confirmed. But they're injured and trapped in the wreckage. Launch rescue immediately, Velthar ordered. Sir, the problem is the gravity. Zone 7 North is 1.4 G. Our rescue teams will need powered exoskeletons to operate there. Even then, movement will be difficult and slow. Velthar's 4 hands clenched into fists. He knew what that meant. In 1.4 G gravity, a rescue operation that should take 1 hour might take 4 or 5. The injured cadets might not have that much time. The rescue shuttles launched, carrying teams in powered exoskeletons. But the exoskeletons were heavy and clumsy, designed for mining operations, not rescue work. In the cadet briefing room, Hana and the others waited for news. Some cadets were crying. Others sat in stunned silence. Taejin paced back and forth, his confident mask cracked with worry. Jiwoo is the best of us, he said quietly. She has to be okay. Minho nodded. And Revek. He's a good person. Hana listened to the emergency communications on the open channel. The rescue teams had landed, but were moving slowly in the heavy gravity. Even with powered exoskeletons, the 1.4 G environment was crushing. This is Rescue 1, a strained voice reported. Making progress, but it's difficult. The exoskeletons aren't designed for this. We're moving approximately 1 kilometer per hour. The crash site is 3 kilometers from your landing zone, Control Tower responded. 3 hours minimum, and that was just to reach them. Hana stood up. An idea formed in her mind. A crazy, dangerous idea. She left the briefing room and went directly to the operations center. Instructor Daesom was there, coordinating with rescue teams. Instructor, Hana said firmly, I want to volunteer for the rescue. Daesom looked up, surprised. Cadet, the rescue teams are already deployed. We don't need— They're moving too slowly, Hana interrupted. The exoskeletons are too heavy for that gravity level. But I can move in 1.4 G. Daesom's eyes widened as she understood. You're from Earth, 1.0 G. Yes, ma'am. It's not the same as 1.4 G, but it's much closer than 0.6 G or 0.7 G. I can carry a rescue kit and medical supplies. I can move faster than the teams in exoskeletons. Commandant Velthar had been listening. He turned to Hana. Cadet, you realize what you're suggesting? 1.4 G is 40% stronger than Earth gravity. Even for you, it will be extremely difficult. You could injure yourself. You could fail. Yes, sir. I understand. But I have to try. Velthar studied her. The small Earth girl who had been mocked and hazed, who struggled with 0G training and scored average on most tests. Now she was volunteering for a mission that might kill her. Why? He asked simply. Hana met his gaze. Because they're my classmates, sir. And because I can help. There was a long pause. Velthar looked at Instructor Daesom. She nodded slightly. Prepare a light shuttle, Velthar ordered. Emergency gear only. Minimal weight. Cadet Hana will attempt the rescue. 20 minutes later, Hana sat in a small shuttle descending toward Titan III's northern region. She wore a standard flight suit, carried a medical kit, and had emergency communications equipment. No exoskeleton. No powered armor. Just herself. The pilot, an experienced officer named Quan, looked worried. Cadet, I have to tell you, this gravity will feel like someone twice your weight is sitting on your shoulders. Every movement will be exhausting. I understand, Hana said quietly. The shuttle landed 2 kilometers from the crash site, closer than the rescue teams had been able to land due to rough terrain. Hana stepped out onto the moon's surface. Immediately, she felt the gravity slam into her like a physical weight. Her knees almost buckled. Her breathing became labored. It felt like wearing a backpack full of rocks, a very heavy backpack, but she had felt weight before. On Earth, she had carried water containers that weighed half her body weight. She had worked 12-hour shifts doing physical labor. Pain and exhaustion were familiar. She started walking. Each step was hard. Her legs burned. Her back ached. But she moved forward, one step at a time. In the operations center, everyone watched her vital signs on monitors. Her heart rate was elevated but steady. Her oxygen consumption was high but manageable. She's actually moving, Daesom whispered in amazement. In 1.4 G, she's actually moving. Velthar watched the screen showing Hana's location via tracking beacon. She was covering ground faster than the exoskeleton teams, not fast by normal standards, but in that gravity it was remarkable. On the moon's surface, Hana focused only on the next step. Then the next. Then the next. She didn't think about the 2 kilometers. She thought about the single meter in front of her. This was something Earth had taught her. When life is hard, you don't think about tomorrow. You think about the next moment. Survive this moment, then the next one will come. After 90 brutal minutes, she saw smoke ahead. The crash site. The 2 pods had impacted in a small valley. They were crumpled and broken, but intact enough that the occupants might have survived. Hana approached carefully. "This is Cadet Hana," she said into her comm. "I've reached the crash site." In Pod 45, Jiwoo heard the voice and couldn't believe it. "The Earth Girl? How?" Hana reached the first pod and looked through the cracked window. Revik was inside, unconscious but breathing. His leg was twisted at a wrong angle. She moved to Pod 45. Jiwoo was awake, holding her arm, which was clearly broken. "Hana?" Jiwoo said weakly. "How are you here?" "We're getting you out," Hana replied. She began working on the pod's emergency release. The emergency release mechanism was jammed. Hana pulled harder, her muscles straining against the damaged metal. In 1.4 g gravity, everything weighed 40% more than it should. Her arms felt like lead, but lead could still move. The mechanism finally gave way with a screech of torn metal. The pod door opened. Jiwoo looked up at her with tears in her eyes. "My arm is broken," Jiwoo said through gritted teeth. "I can't move it, I know. Don't move. I'm going to stabilize it first." Hana pulled out the medical kit and began working. Her hands were steady despite the crushing gravity. On Earth, she had helped in the community medical shelter during emergencies. Injuries were common when you lived in a world trying to kill you. She splinted Jiwoo's arm quickly and efficiently. "Can you stand?" "I don't know. This gravity. It's so heavy." For Jiwoo, who had grown up on New Seoul Station at 0.6 g, the 1.4 g felt more than twice as strong as she was used to. Her body, optimized for lighter gravity, simply wasn't built for this. "I'll help you," Hana said. She lifted Jiwoo carefully. The other girl gasped at the pain but nodded. "Now walk with me to that flat area over there. The shuttle can land there." They moved slowly. Jiwoo leaned heavily on Hana, whimpering with each step. For her, simply standing upright in this gravity required all her strength. Hana supported her weight while moving through terrain that would have been difficult even without carrying someone. Her legs trembled. Her breathing came in gasps. But she kept moving. "How?" Jiwoo asked between labored breaths. "How are you doing this?" "Practice," Hana replied simply. They reached the flat area. Hana helped Jiwoo sit down carefully, then immediately turned back toward the crash site. "Stay here. I'm getting Revik." "Wait," Jiwoo called out. "You're going back? You need to rest. No time." Hana walked back to Pod 46. Her body screamed at her to stop, to rest, to give up. She ignored it. Pain was just information. It told her she was pushing hard. It didn't tell her to stop. Revik was heavier than Jiwoo. He was also unconscious with a broken leg. Getting him out of the pod and carrying him would be nearly impossible in this gravity. Nearly impossible. Not completely impossible. Hana braced herself and pulled Revik from the pod. He was alien physiology, different body structure, but mass was mass. She got him onto her shoulders in a rescue carry position. Then she stood up. For a moment, she thought her legs would give out. The combined weight of Revik and the 1.4 g gravity was crushing. She felt like she might be pressed into the ground. One step. Just take one step. She took it, then another. In the operations center, alarm bells were ringing. "Her vital signs are critical," a medic reported. "Heart rate at 190. Blood pressure dangerous. She's going to collapse." Instructor Daesam leaned forward, staring at the screen. "No, she's not. Look at her movement. It's steady." And it was. Slow, yes. Painful, obviously. But steady. Hana moved like a machine, each step exactly the same as the last. Not fast, not efficient, but unstoppable. "She's been doing this her whole life," Daesam said quietly. "This is just another day on Earth for her." Commandant Velthar watched in silence. In his 40 years of training cadets, he had never seen anything like this. The Earth girl, who scored average on most tests, who struggled with 0 g, who was mocked and hazed, was doing something that should be impossible. She was carrying a full-grown alien through 1.4G gravity over rough terrain because she was born on Earth. Hana reached the flat area and carefully laid Revek next to Jiwoo. She splinted his leg with trembling hands. Her vision was blurry from exhaustion. Sweat poured down her face. Shuttle inbound, Kwan's voice came through her comm. 2 minutes. Hana nodded even though no one could see her. 2 minutes. She could last 2 minutes. She sat down next to the injured cadets, her body finally allowed a moment of rest. Jiwoo looked at her with an expression of complete bewilderment. Why did you do this? Jiwoo asked. After everything. After we mocked you. After Taejin and Minho sabotaged your training. After I said you would fail out. Why would you risk your life to save us? Hana was quiet for a moment, catching her breath. Finally, she said, on Earth we have a saying. We're all in the gravity well together. When someone falls, you help them up. Not because they deserve it. Because that's what humans do. Tears ran down Jiwoo's face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for how we treated you. We'll talk about it later, Hana said gently. Right now, let's just get home. The shuttle landed. Pilot Kwan and a medical officer rushed out. They loaded Jiwoo and Revek quickly. The medical officer looked at Hana with concern. Cadet, you need immediate medical attention. Your body has been under extreme stress. I can walk to the shuttle, Hana said, standing up. Her legs barely supported her. She made it 3 steps before her body finally gave out. Everything went black. Hana woke in the medical bay. Her body ached everywhere. She felt like she had been beaten with clubs. But she was alive. Instructor Daesom sat beside her bed. Welcome back, Cadet. The others? Hana asked immediately. Both alive. Jiwoo's arm is healing well. Revek's leg will require surgery, but he'll make a full recovery. Thanks to you. Hana relaxed back into the bed. Good. The Commandant wants to see you when you're recovered. You're probably going to receive a commendation. What you did was extraordinary. I just did what needed to be done. Daesom smiled slightly. That's the most Earth thing you could possibly say. Over the next 2 days, Hana recovered in medical. Cadets she had never spoken to came to visit. They brought her food from the mess hall. They told her she was a hero. Taejin came alone late at night when few others were around. He stood awkwardly at the door to her room. Can I come in? He asked quietly. Hana nodded. He sat in the chair beside her bed and was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry. For everything. The hazing. The sabotage. The things I said. I was cruel to you because I thought you were weak. I thought Earth people were inferior. And now? Hana asked. Now I realize I'm the weak one. In that gravity, I couldn't have moved at all. I would have been helpless. You saved Jiwoo. You saved Revek. You did something I could never do. He looked at his hands. My whole life I thought being from New Terra made me better. Better education. Better training. Better genetics because my ancestors were smart enough to leave Earth. It does give you advantages, Hana said honestly. But not all advantages. I'm faster than you in low gravity. I'm better at 0G. But when things get really hard, when conditions are brutal, I have no idea what to do. You do. Because you've lived through hard your entire life. Hana considered this. We're different. Colony humans and Earth humans. Neither is better. Just adapted to different environments. Maybe, Taejin said. But I need to apologize anyway. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Apology accepted, Hana said simply. After he left, Hana stared at the ceiling. She thought about the rescue. About carrying Revek through crushing gravity. About every step that had felt impossible. On Earth, nothing was easy. Ever. You worked hard just to have clean water. You struggled just to have food. Every single day was a battle against a planet that didn't care if you lived or died. But that struggle had built something in her. Something the colonies couldn't provide. The absolute certainty that she could endure. When the rescue teams in exoskeletons were moving 1 kilometer per hour, she had moved faster with just her body. Not because she was stronger than the machines, but because machines could fail, and she couldn't afford to fail. Earth had made her unbreakable. The next day, Commandant Velthar visited her in medical. He stood at attention beside her bed, his forearms crossed in a formal position. Cadet Hana, I am here to officially commend your actions during the rescue operation. You displayed courage, determination, and capability far beyond what is expected of a first-term cadet. The Academy recognizes your achievement. Thank you, sir. Velthar relaxed slightly. I also want to apologize. When you arrived, I saw your Earth origin and made assumptions. I believed you would be unprepared for Academy training. I was wrong. You weren't entirely wrong, sir. I am unprepared for some things. Zero-G combat, space operations, I'm still learning. Yes, but you have something that cannot be taught. You have the ability to simply refuse to quit. Velthar paused. I have been reviewing records. Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world by galactic standards. Few species could survive there naturally. Humans evolved there and not only survived but thrived. We adapt, sir. Indeed you do. And that adaptation has made Earth humans into something unique. I am recommending changes to Academy training protocols. We have been training for operations in comfortable environments. But real warfare rarely happens in comfortable environments. We need warriors who can fight in the worst possible conditions. Velthar looked directly at her. I want you to help develop that training. You understand something the rest of us don't. How to function when everything is working against you. Hana was stunned. Sir, I'm just a cadet. I don't know anything about developing training. You know the most important thing. You know how to endure. That's what I need. After he left, Hana lay in bed thinking about his words. For her entire life, being from Earth was a mark of shame, something to hide or apologize for. Now someone was telling her it was valuable, that her experiences mattered, that what Earth had done to her, the hardship, the struggle,